Hello, it is I, Andrine, Jewish American Priestess, and I'm here today with another Hebrew reading for the upcoming week, which is the week between the full moon and the new moon. So again, the silent week, this kind of sort of blank week in the blankest of the months. And I'm going to pull out 3 cards today from this Soul Cards deck. It was a gift to me by my younger offspring many, many years ago. And let's just pick 3 cards today to see what will guide us into our readings. This one. This one. And one more. There we go. This one. Okay, so we have 3 cards, and the Soul's deck is different than any of the other decks in that it's not a tarot deck. It's not exactly an oracle deck. It's a deck of paintings that the author created, and one is able or encouraged to interpret them in whatever way resonates with you as you see the pictures. So I'm going to turn them over, and then we'll choose which pile will be the pile for you and your reading today. So for pile number 1, we have this card, and this card it's a figure with long hair holding a bowl that appears to be full of possibly some kind of liquid. She's standing in what appears to be some kind of forest, perhaps. That's card number 1. Card number 2 is this card. It is another figure with holding an egg over its belly and chest, eyes closed, and looks like a flower resting on their head. A lot of purples and whites and a little bit of teal in that one. And then for card number 3, we have this 2 figures facing each other, forming almost 2 hearts, one here and one down here. So take a look at these cards. That feather wants to come. And let's see which one of these cards resonates for you today. Card number 1, card number 2, card number 3. I'll put the timestamps down below, and we'll do a Hebrew reading based on each of these cards. I'll see you there. Okay, for those of you who chose card number 1, again I'll show you the card. It is a figure with longish hair. They seem to be standing inside what appears to be some kind of forest or maybe a cave even. They're holding a very large bowl or container of some sort, and in that container it appears to be a liquid. Certainly some kind of spiral in there. So I'm going to set this card right here and pull out some Hebrews today and see what comes up for this figure today. first Hebrew I pull out is going to go at the top. That's what's coming down from above. The second one is, what do we know about our situation? And we're going to read both the current Hebrew and the Proto-Hebrew today. Third one is about what is present but unseen. The next one is what's the root cause, or coming up from below for us. The next one is, on the upper left corner, what is our challenge? And in the upper right corner, what is the advice for this situation? All right, let's start with these. So what's coming down from above, which is to say, what is divine message for this? Is the letter Aleph, and that is, of course, the first letter of the alphabet. It is the letter that has the connection and division between heaven and earth, between divine and humanity. We've got the Yud in the upper right corner and another Yud shape in the lower left corner and a Vav between them. So heaven above, earth below, and connection and division between. And Aleph is the number 1, and it represents the oneness of all of divinity. It speaks to all things one. So the oneness of the divine, the oneness of all of creation, and interestingly, the letter Aleph also, if it comes with different vowels, is pronounced Aleph, which means 1,000. So it speaks to that unity and multiplicity, the multiplicity within the oneness and the oneness within all of the multiplicity. So it's about connection, yeah. It's about distinction, division, but also the unity between the divine and all of creation. It is one of the mother letters, the first mother letter, and so it is the creation element of air. And I'm going to throw that on the ground. Creation element of air. It speaks to the breath that was breathed in to each item of creation from the divine. Breath in the body, chest in the body, and the element of air in the world. So the atmosphere where we live, this area that is between fire and water, where we can survive, where we can breathe. It balances between the cold of the water and the heat of the fire. It's sort of that Goldilocks area of where we can exist. It is the direction of the middle, that middle place, because again, it balances fire and water. And it speaks to beauty. In the Sefer Yetzirah, it's paired with the chest in the body, which, when overlaid the Sephirot, the 10 emanations of the divine, that would be Tiferet, right in the heart, in the body. Beauty and balance. Beauty and balance. And it makes the sound ah. It's the first letter of the word emet, which means truth. And that's what's coming down from above, this idea of connection and distinction between the divine and the human. And what we know about our situation is this is the Proto-Hebrew for the letter tzadi. Tzadi is the letter that stands for justice or righteousness, tzaddik, one who is righteous or just in the world. And the Paleo or the Proto-Hebrew looks like this. I'm not clear about whether it's a pictogram that means something significant or not. But the tzadi itself is said to look like a nun with a yud on its back, and that is somebody who is humble but carries the divine with them. So maybe this is a snake that is humble on the ground, perhaps. It corresponds to the number 90 in Gematria, which is the number of years old that our matriarch Sarah was when she was told that she would become pregnant. And she laughed. And because of the laughter, she named her child Yitzhak, which means laughter. And Yitzhak also has the tzadi in it. And it represents that each one of us, each child who is born, has the capacity for becoming a tzaddik, somebody who is righteous and bends down in humility, submitting themselves to the divine. Someone who is humble and holy. So what we know is, in this time, that there is something righteous or just that is happening, because tzaddik is also, tzedek is also justice in the world. So something is just, something is right, some justice to what's happening in our situation here. And then that which we don't see, haven't seen yet, but exists right now, the unseen, is the letter nun, and nun is that humility. It is someone who's humble and, I say subservient, but provides service faithfully to the divine. It is the number 50 in Gematria, which speaks to the Jubilee year, the year that we forgive all debts and free all of our slaves. It speaks to humility so that one has the power and strength to lead. And in time, the Nun corresponds to the month of Cheshvan, which is where we are now in time, as this reading is being uploaded, and the constellation of Scorpio in the sky. And it corresponds to the stomach and the body, and the foundation of locomotion, which is forward movement that is starts very slow, but becomes steady and reliable. So something humble, and something beginning to move forward slowly, steadily, is what is unseen in our situation. What's coming up from the bottom, or our root cause of the situation, is the letter Shin. This is the Paleo Shin, so it's a very ancient form of it. It generally looks like this. Shin is the mother letter that represents fire. So interesting, we have air above and fire below in this reading. So Aish, something that maybe speaks to the passion, some kind of heat, maybe even anger, that has brought us to this place. Some root cause of something very fiery having happened. Shin is the first letter of the word shalom, which means wholeness or peace, but also the word Shekhinah, indwelling presence, and Shana, which means year, or can be sleep, also Shena, and Shini, which means change. And fire is one of those elements that you can see it flickering up here. It's changing all the time. It's it's I won't say unstable element. It's a changeable element, a malleable element. So it represents the stars and the sun and the moon in the sky, and the summer in time, and like I said, the head in the body. This is the chest in the body, and this is the head in the body, and above in direction, because that's where the sun is, up above. And so it being the root cause, it's interesting, it's like these two elements have been reversed, or that the root cause of our situation maybe have come out of something that's happened in the summer, something that came out of a flare-up of passion, some kind of fire. And our challenge in this situation is upper left corner is the letter Gimel. And Gimel is the letter that is said to look like a foot walking forward. It's traveling ahead. It's also the similar word to the word camel in Hebrew, gamal. And so it speaks of movement or running, walking forward. It can be about doing good deeds even. It is the planet Jupiter in the sky, which, interestingly, the planet Jupiter's name in Hebrew is Tzedek, so also referencing back what is known here, that something challenging about moving forward. It is the binary foundation of peace and evil. So again, referencing back to shalom here in the bottom. Although shalom, again, speaks to peace, it also means wholeness. So it's the fullness of all things, including what's considered evil or the dark side of things. So maybe what's challenging right now isn't forward movement. Maybe we're just at a standstill. That there is a delay in running toward justice. And it represents the number 3 in Gematria, so it speaks to the 3 mother letters, the Aleph, the Shin, and the Mem, which is the mother letter of water. So it references those 3 things. Maybe the balance between those things is challenging right now. The air, the water, and the fire. It is the direction below in the celestial temple. And so I'm guessing that the challenge here is that stagnation, that forward movement is not happening, or doesn't seem to be happening. Although with the Nun and locomotion, we know that it's beginning. It's just difficult to see. So maybe it's difficult, this idea of moving forward toward justice right now, because things seem stagnant. Although under the surface, it appears movement is happening. And our advice for the situation is, this is our Proto-Hebrew for the letter He. And the letter He is about presence. It's about being present for service. This is the Paleo-Hebrew, but the traditional, current, modern Hebrew looks like this. And some say this looks like a dalet with a foot. That the Gimel has lent the dalet a foot to give it the ability to walk forward. And so it speaks to generosity and reciprocity, giving and unity, completion. But for me, the He most commonly speaks to being present. Hineni, I am here, which is the answer one gives when they hear the call of the divine. Here I am. Here I am. So I think what it's speaking to in this position, in this reading, is that we need to remain present despite the fact that it seems like things are stagnant right now. And I'm going to pull out one final letter to go in the center It'll be our outcome. That's great. Okay. So I've got the Paleo-Hebrew for the letter Mem. So we have all three mother letters here, Aleph, Mem, and Shin. And they're in interesting order here, but Mem is, it looks like waves of water. It is a container that holds fluid. It's, you can see that it looks like a womb. And it is the mother letter of water, the creation element of water, out of which we are all born, both, physically in our mother's wombs, but also all life came from water on the planet somehow. And it's fitting that it's right in the center here because it corresponds to the belly in the body. It is the number 40 in Gematria, which is perfect because it corresponds to the 40 weeks of gestation in the human during pregnancy. It's, and it speaks to like the 40 days of rain that Noah and his family endured, and also the 40 days on Mount Sinai when Moses went up to get the Torah, and also the 40 years wandering in the desert. So it's a time of gestation. It's a time of waiting and gestating. I love that. It's here. And although generally the Shin represents the head and the body, and Aleph represents the chest, and Mem represents the belly, the way this is set up, some say that Shin is the actually last letter of the alphabet, the letter Tav, which completes the alphabet, is a signature. So if you read it like this, it says MS, which is truth, and kind of an Ashkenazi pronunciation of truth. You can see that right here on my little golem, Aleph, Mem, Tav. That idea of truth marching forward. So, for those of you who chose what I think of as the crone with her scrying bowl, that crone in the woods who's out there divining what is up. We have Aleph representing the connection and the division between heaven and earth, between the divine and the human. This inner knowing that justice will prevail, that there's righteousness in the world from a very ancient place. That although we may not feel it or see it right now, humility is important and locomotion is beginning. Forward movement is starting. That from beneath, or what's brought us to this point, is some sort of passion, some sort of fire. Something has driven us here, either a fire of love or a fire of anger, or just whatever happened over the summer has brought us to where we are now. And we are having some challenges with moving forward. That right now it's difficult to see the three elements working together. It's difficult to imagine how we can move forward at this time. But we can. We can know that justice, that tzedek, the planet of Jupiter, and the idea of justice are in play. And that locomotion has started somewhere beneath the surface, and that our job right now is to remain present, hineni, to be here and witness, maybe wait, endure, because we are in a period of gestation right now. We're in the watery phase, this time of year, which is the wet season for us in this hemisphere. Mem represents the winter in the seasons as well. because it is this cold, wet time. So we're in a period of gestation right now, and we can stay here and wait it out, knowing that we are gestating something, that we are being gestated within the womb, within this scrying bowl, that somewhere we are in that water, and that sooner or later something will birth forward, an idea, something will come from this, despite the fact that it feels like we're stagnant right now. We need to trust in that justice, trust in that movement beneath the water, and know that the divine is here with us. And so for those of you who chose card number 1, this has been your reading. I hope it's been useful for you, and we will see you again next time. Alright, for those of you who chose this card, which is the person carrying an egg. And they seem to have their eyes closed. They seem to be peaceful. And they have this flower or something on the front of their head. A lot of radiance coming out of their top of their body. Seem to be at peace in some way or another. Let's throw down some Hebrunes and see what comes up. The first one I'm going to pull out is what's coming down from above. I have the letter Shin. Next will be lower right, which is what is known about our situation. I have the letter Kuf. Lower left, I'm going to choose one that is what is unknown about our situation, but is coming to light. Letter Pe. These are the Proto-Hebrew. We'll talk about that as we go through the reading. I'm going to pull out one that is about the root cause, or the foundation of the situation, or what's coming up from below. There's the letter Nun. And then upper left is our challenge for our situation. The letter Dalet. And our advice for the situation. The letter Lamed. So we got a lot of Paleo-Hebrew today in this reading. I guess about evenly split. Okay. So from the top, I have the letter Shin. And the letter Shin, this is the, again, Paleo or Proto-Hebrew, and this is the current modern Hebrew. This is the mother letter that represents the element of fire. So it represents the light of the sun and the moon and the stars in the sky, the season of summer in the calendar, and it is about fiery things, about passion. Could be love, or it could be anger. It also represents the head in the body, because that's where our fiery thoughts and our fiery passions seem to sit in us. It is the number 200 in Gematria. 300 in Gematria. So it has this affiliation with an ultimate manifestation of the number 3. And the number 3 in Hebrew is the Gimel, which is forward movement. So something about moving forward, possibly very very intensely, maybe like a fire blazing through something. It has to do with many of the words that begin with the letter Shin. We've got the Shekhinah, which is the indwelling presence of the divine, Shalom, wholeness, and Shana, which means year, cycles, so cycles and circles, and change, Shini, so things that change. There's a lot of connections to inner fire, perhaps. And again, like I said, the sky in the world, where the heavens have the stars and the sun and the fire and the moon, and the summer in the time, the head in the body, and the direction above. So that's appropriate for coming down from above, fire, or sitting above the head. Passion, something of passion coming down from above. What we have in our known position is the letter Kuf. And the letter Kuf is the one letter that reaches below the line in Hebrew. So it's also the last letter of the word tzaddik, which is someone who is righteous, and the word tzedek, which means justice. So it has to do with righteousness and justice, and searching out those bits of justice in the world to create repair, tikkun olam, to repair the world. There's a story that the divine light was attempted to be stored in vessels, and those vessels shattered, and all the divine light spread out into the world, and that it is our job to collect those pieces of divine light and bring them back together, and that is considered repairing the world. It is the number 100 in Gematria, so it has this affiliation with the number 1, 1 being the letter that corresponds to Aleph, the divine oneness of God. And this is that times 10 times 10, 10 times 10 times 10, 1 times 10 times 10. So it's a letter that speaks to the oneness of God, of the righteousness that dwells within humans. And it corresponds to the month of Adar in the Hebrew calendar and the constellation of Pisces in the sky. And the foundation of sleep. Foundation of sleep, which is where we go to rest, to dream. So that's what's known right now. We have this knowledge of some kind of righteousness, some kind of seeking out justice, seeking out the divine aspects that exist in the world. We've got fire above and the sparks that are below. And what is unseen right now is the letter Pei. It is, this is what it looks like in the current Hebrew, and this is the Proto-Ancient Hebrew. So it looks like a willow leaf. The willow leaf is that which represents a mouth in the lulav that we shake during Sukkot, and Pei is said to be a mouth. It's said to be the divine mouth speaking creation into existence. Pei is about communication. And so maybe what we're not seeing right now is the need for communication. It's about speech. It's about divine speech. Maybe it's about the divine speaking to us, and maybe we're not quite ready to hear, or we're not quite in a place where we can hear the voice of the divine, in that it's in this spot that is representing what is not seen yet. It's also a spiral. Looks like it goes, spirals infinitely in and infinitely out. The mouth is not just a conduit of speech, it's a conduit of breath. So this idea of breath, divine breath, coming into us and also coming out of us. We have breath, and that breath is divine, and we exchange it with all those around us. It is the number 80 in Gematria, so it corresponds to the ultimate manifestation of the infinite, 8 being the number of infinity, because it is one more than the number of days of creation, 7. 8 is infinite, and 10 times 8 is the ultimate manifestation of the infinite. And that is something that's sometimes challenging to see or unseen. And that's what's coming up in that position of what is not yet known, that there's infinite, the infinite is here, and there's an infinite need for communication and breath in the world. That which is coming up from the bottom, or our root cause here, is the letter Nun, and this is again the Paleo Proto Hebrew for the letter Nun. It is looks like this usually. It's said to be a bent over person, somebody who's kneeling and bending over to serve. And I think this is supposed to be a snake, which is the most humble thing, crawls along the ground. So it's supposed to be a servant, a faithful servant, someone who is a servant but also a leader, right? So because the greatest leaders are also humble. So there's power and strength here to lead, but it corresponds in time to the month of Cheshvan, which is now. We are in that time and it's also the constellation Scorpio, and the stomach and the body. And this is what's coming up from below. This idea of humility, that may be the foundation of our situation. It has to do with being humble, or maybe just being now in Mar Cheshvan. It also has to do with locomotion, which is to say slow, steady motion, where things take a long time to get started, but then when they start to go, they go with very regular and consistent pace. So something maybe has started, and it's moving forward at a very slow, steady pace. Something humble. And that which is a challenge for us right now in this situation that we're in is the letter Dalet. Dalet is a doorway. It is a gate, the thing through which we travel. And since it's in this position of, it also has to do with humility, so it has to do with self-nullification of the ego. But it's in a challenge position, so it may have to do with this idea of very low self-esteem, maybe not feeling worthy, maybe having a difficult time passing through whatever gate we're in because we don't feel we're worthy to pass through. Dalet corresponds to the planet Mars in the sky, and the binary foundation of wisdom and foolishness. So maybe we're having some difficulty discerning wisdom from foolishness right now, and we're having some challenges getting through whatever gate we're trying to traverse at this time. And our advice for the situation right now is our letter Lamed. And this is the Paleo or Proto-Hebrew for the letter Lamed. Lamed is the one letter that reaches up. It's hard to see in this because it kind of swoops up like that. But in this one you can see that it is the letter that reaches up above the line, because it is reaching up for connection with the divine. Lamed is the first letter of the word Lev, which means heart. So it's again the heart reaching up with heart toward connection with the divine, elevating. Has to do with learning and teaching as well. Prayer and meditation, praise, and action, the foundation of action in the world. So it sounds like the advice here is to take action in some way. Take action with heart to connect with divinity, to connect with something that is up, something we're aspiring to. That maybe there's something to learn or something to teach here through this connection to the heart. Whatever action we need to take, that's what our advice is right now. Not to sit stagnant, but to actually take action right now with heart. I'm going to pull out one last letter to place right in the center here as an outcome for our reading today. Okay, we got the letter Yud. Okay, this is the Paleo-Hebrew for the letter Yud. It's supposed to represent an arm and a hand, sort of like elbow and hand grabbing. In our current Hebrew, it looks like this. It is the smallest of the letter. It represents a seed. It represents the first letter of the divine name. It is the number 10, which means it is the ultimate manifestation of the number 1. So it's about oneness. It's about one point. Like a small seed that one might plant. Maybe a seed that goes into a womb, into an egg. Looks a little bit like a sperm. The letter Yud also can be pronounced Yod, which means arm or hand, like it shows on the back here, and the Paleo or Proto-Hebrew. But mostly I think of the Yud as being a divine letter. Again, because it's the name of the divine. And that seed that exists within all, and again, that one point, through the divine contracted themselves down to one point in order to make space for the universe to be created, and then everything exploded out from there. Again, that divine light was contracted into vessels that then shattered. We talked about with the kuf being that which goes down into the world to look for those divine sparks. These are the divine sparks. You'll notice in each of the letters there is a Yud. You can see a Yud there, and this one has a Yud here, and then the Shin itself has 3 Yuds on it. So the Yud is the foundation point of all creation, of all letters. It's like the atom that exists in everything that exists in the universe. And so that being the center here seems entirely appropriate because it corresponds to the number 10. It also references all things 10. So the 10 Sephirot, the 10 different emanations of the divine, the 10 plagues, the 10 commandments. It has to do with sexuality in the body. So its foundation is sexuality, which again reminds me of the sperm or the seed. And because it is the yad, the hand, it's also about action. So we've got action here and action again here. So whatever it is that you know that you should be doing, this is the time to do it. We've got this idea of passion, something that's coming down from the divine, some passion, some idea, some fiery thought or emotion that is encouraging us to reach into the world and collect divine sparks, do some repair of some kind. That this idea of speech or breath is there, it's underlying the situation, maybe not yet spoken, but words being formulated perhaps. That we have this foundation of humility that we need to work from, the root of humility. And although there's a challenge of maybe walking through the door, maybe feeling not humble but self-deprecating, we need to get beyond that and take action. Take action with heart. Take action with love. And bring ourselves back to that oneness, that one seed, that one spot. The connection with the divine. And so for those of you who chose the Eggman, the pregnant with an idea, or the one who is holding safe this egg, this seed, in the season of the seed time when we're not growing yet, but there's a seed, an idea growing. You can see it growing in the mind here, this flower that's starting to bloom in the mind. For those of you who chose this has been your reading. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you next time. Hello, for those of you who chose this card, which, like I said, looks like two faces, two figures facing each other with a heart here and another heart maybe hidden behind here. I was thinking of this card as the caduceus of love, two entwined beings creating love above and love below. It's a very curious card. This is going to be your reading. I'll set this card right here up against the candle, and we're going to pull out 6 Hebrunes to begin with. The first one is going to be that which is coming down from above. We have the letter Ein. That's the Proto-Hebrew. We're going to look at both sides of that. Next one will be that which we know about our situation. We have the letter Yud. The next letter will be that which is unseen or unknown right now. We have the letter Dalet. Next will be what's coming up from below. What's our root cause here? The letter Samech. Up in the upper left corner, we're going to place a rune that will, Hebrew that will correspond to what's our challenge right now. We have the letter Het, and then advice for our situation. And we have the letter Shin. Okay, so starting at the top, we have the letter Ein. And the letter Ein is representative of an eye. You can see in the Proto or Paleo-Hebrew, it does look like an eye. In the current Hebrew, some people say it's like 2 eyes on the top, and then the optic nerve, which goes back to the brain. Not funny, interesting as I hold it up, I see it's very similar to this figure with the 2 heads and then the curving around in the exact same shape. How fascinating. The letter Ein represents the eye, so it talks about being seen, seeing, and being seen, watched over by the divine. Um, I love that with regards to this picture and this letter. It also has to do with the number 70. So it is the ultimate manifestation of a completion. 7 being the number of days of creation, and 10 times 7 being the ultimate manifestation of something that is complete. So it has to do with some major completion that's happened. Something that has come to an end, or is about to come to an end. It has to do with the foundation of laughter also in the world, so hopefully it's a joyful thing that is completed. It's the month of Tevet and the constellation of Capricorn in the year, and the left hand in the body. And I just love that it's this vision and sight and being watched over, all those things, and how similar it is to this card where these two figures are looking at each other very intently. And that's what's coming down from above, this idea of sight and vision. What is known about our situation is the letter Yud, and the letter Yud is the letter that begins the four-letter unpronounceable name of the divine, the Yud He Vav He. So it's the first letter of the name of God, and it is that little tiny seed that holds so much. It's the beginning of all things. It's like that building block of the universe, the atom that makes up all of matter. It is this one tiny single point. That's a seed that is planted, and then everything grows from it, or maybe a sperm that causes birth to start. So it's what we know about our situation is, although there's an ending, something has come to a completion, we also have this seed that's been planted. Something new is being born here. It looks like this on the back because the letter Yud is also corresponds to the word Yad, which means hand or arm. So it's about action in the world as well. It is corresponding to sexuality as a foundation, so something to do with sexuality or seed planting. Some kind of beginning. And then what's unknown or what's unseen right now is the letter Dalet, and Dalet is a doorway, the doorway through which something will pass, a gate, and also some sort of humility or humbleness. It is the number 4, so it has to do with the 4 letters of the divine name and the 4 elements of earth, air, fire, and water, as well as the 4 seasons, spring, summer, winter, and fall. It corresponds to wisdom and foolishness in the foundations. In the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation, each of the letters corresponds to a different foundation, and this is the foundation of wisdom and foolishness. So it may have to do with what we don't know, is whether things are going to go in a wise or foolish direction right now. The root cause of our situation is the letter Samech. And Samech is this letter. It's a circle. And it's that which surrounds. So it's about both about protection and comfort. But in the Paleo-Hebrew, it looks like this. So it's about a thorn. It's a thorniness. You can see that vestigial thorn on the top here. So it's about cycles and circles, spirals and seasons, but it's also about being surrounded with protection. Sometimes thorns were used as a protective barrier around a home or a field, so there may be a little bit of a thorniness to it. It is a circle or a container, and it corresponds to the number 60. And 60 is used in the Talmud a lot to talk about nullification, that 1/60th of something is considered null. So if you dropped like a 1/60th of something not kosher into a food, it wouldn't count. But they also say that sleep is 1/60th of death, or Shabbat is 1/60th of the world to come. So it has to do with nullification. It says we are all nullified to the divine. So we are maybe 1/60th or less of the divine. It has to do with the month of Kislev in the year, and the constellation of Sagittarius, and the foundation of agitation. So that thorn follows through. So something that's come out of the foundation here, something that is coming up from the bottom, the root cause of our situation here is this desire for protection, or this feeling of protection, or possibly a little bit of a thorniness or agitation that has brought us to where we are now. And our challenge in the situation right now is the letter Het. The letter Het is, it represents life. The word Chai is Het Yud, so we have these two together. It makes the word Chai. And a chuppah, which is a marriage canopy. So interesting. This is like a little bit of a relationship going on here. So some kind of contract or covenant that's going on between two people, perhaps, or maybe a person and the divine themselves. Also, it's the number 8, so it has to do with the 8 days of creation. The one more plus the days of creation is infinity, so it has to do with infinity. But also the 8th day after a baby is born is when they are given a naming ceremony, or a brit milah, which is the circumcision, and that is a covenant with the divine. So it also has to do with speech in the body, which is to say that the gullet in the body, the throat, and it can also have to do with darkness. So choshek is one of the words that begin with the letter Het, and it is the first use of the word Het in the Torah is the word darkness, choshek. So maybe the challenge is some kind of darkness, or some kind of wrestling with the idea of infinite, something having to do with life force. Maybe we're having some challenges with our life force right now. There's some darkness in our life, and maybe some difficulties with contracts or covenants that we have with folks in the world. The Paleo-Hebrew looks like this. It's sort of a fence or a wall, possibly a ladder. So that's the challenge right now. Darkness, life, just life in general maybe is a challenge. And that wrestling with the infinite. What is that anyway? That's our challenge right now. And our advice moving forward is the letter Shin. This is the Proto or Paleo-Hebrew for the letter Shin. This is what it looks like in current Hebrew. But our current advice is it's the mother letter of fire. Maybe it has to do with passion. Get passionate about something. Maybe get angry. It could have to do with passion, fire, love, anger, thought. It's the head in the body. It looks like flames coming up. So our advice is to set things on fire in one way or another. I'm not sure what that will mean for you. If it's about passion, like this couple here, maybe that's what we're advised to do, is find some fires, find some passion in the world. It has to do with the Shekhinah, indwelling presence of the divine, and shalom, which is to say wholeness, not just peace, but all, everything. Embrace everything, embrace all the things. It has to do with the sun and the stars and the moon in the sky. connect to the inner fire, is what I would say with regards to advice for this situation. Find your inner passion and connect to that. I'm going to pull out one more letter for our central conclusion here. And we have the letter Mem. And Mem is the mother letter of water. It is the number 40 in Gematria, so it corresponds to the 40 weeks of gestation in the human body. So it has to do with gestation, it has to do with pregnancy and birth, about the belly in the body, and water, winter, cold rains maybe even in the world in time. And so something is gestating, something watery, something is coming into gestation and birth. And so going back over each of these, we have this idea of sight and vision, being seen, being watched over, and seeing for ourselves. And again, this caduceus of love here, that's coming down from above. So the divine watching over us. What we know about it is that the divine exists in all things. This Vav, this Yud exists in all things. That we've got Yuds in every one of the letters, and sometimes several Vavs and Yuds in a letter. So it's about that one point, that the atom, that seed, that even though we've got a completion up here, we have a new beginning as well. That there's a doorway, some humility that is unseen right now. Maybe we're about to walk through a doorway of some sort. Maybe we can't see it yet. But that we're surrounded with love. And even if there is some foundation of agitation, there is this surroundedness, this protection coming up from beneath. And if we're having a challenge with life, with the idea of contracts or covenants or darkness, that we need to move forward with passion, with an inner passion, with fire. Find the fire, find the thing that brings us forward, and that will lead us to this place of womb-like protection, this place of gestation, where we're ready to gestate something new and bring something new into the world. And so for those of you who chose this card of these two figures facing each other with love and maybe connection of some sort, this has been your reading, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time.